if you're overthinking and you know it, clap your hands. If you're overthinking and you know it, clap your hands. If you make yourself really, 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 really sad because you're overthinking, clap your hands. Yay!
The whole world just erupts with claps.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Girls at ADHD.
Hello.
Hi. In case you've forgotten, I'm Anushka.
And I'm Sayaka.
And we have ADHD. We're also practitioners.
Yeah.
And this podcast is hopefully your one-stop shop about all things to do with ADHD. It's a bit unhinged.
But we made it to season 2. So this is season 2 for those who are just tuning in. And today we are diving into thought spirals.
Yay! Oh, but this is a real thing, okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, it's not exclusive to ADHD, but it is a really big part of it.
Yeah.
We have this huge tendency to just zone out
And think.
about all the possible scenarios. It's over things that just will never happen.
And I think thought spirals, what's interesting about them, yes, we think, but it's always worst case scenario.
Always we're prepared.
Yeah.
We're prepared
for the worst.
Everything.
When there's a crisis, we're ready because we've prepared for it in our minds. But
we have the resources.
Yes, we have the resources. We know what to do. But if it's just a slight inconvenience,
oh God, I can't do slight inconveniences. Full blown emergencies, A-okay.
Ready.
You know, if you call me and you're like, I am needing to go to the doctors and there's an emergency, I've cut my hand off, I'd be like, cool, let's go.
Yeah, super calm.
No issues.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay, but thought spirals, how would you describe them?
I would describe that it kind of starts off with either an emotion that I'm already feeling or I'll have a thought about something. And then and this is the thing with ADHD brains as well, we connect things that are not related to each other. So sometimes my brain will go here's the thing, let's think about the Roman Empire. And then I'm like, yeah, but what about the Persian Empire? Then I start thinking about Persian food. And then that takes me to something else. And then eventually somehow I'm thinking about my ex-boyfriend maybe.
Yeah.
What would happen if I bumped into him on the street?
Yes.
And what if I looked really incredible in that scenario? Right. Then what if he got run over at the same time? It's just really stupid, really random.
Yeah.
There's no connection.
There is.
But I'll play the scenario through in my head.
Yes.
Or it'd be really basic everyday things what if this really big, bad, terrible thing happened? Okay, well, how would I support that? What would we do? What are the steps from here?
Yeah.
How do we go about it?
Yeah.
I think in my head, and I've said it to a couple of clients actually, I think ADHD is we think in consequences.
Yes.
If this happens, then this will happen, then this will happen, which is great on a general day-to-day basis because we're very good at being able to be resourceful, pulling things, problem solving and all that sort of stuff. But when you're understimulated, which is where the thought spirals are coming from, it's actually another practitioner was I feel it's a form of stimming almost, that your brain is feeling so understimulated that it creates scenarios in its mind to problem solve.
Yeah. And
you're trying to have enough, I don't know, whatever you call it, oomph in your brain again to be because I don't know, at the end of a thought spiral, I sometimes feel good. I'm okay, I've imagined all the really terrible, bad things that could happen.
Yeah, sometimes you do come full circle and then go back to the positive.
Yeah, and you're okay, I've solved it now. Great. But the problem with that is that, and I don't know if you do this, but I have arguments with people in my head sometimes. And that's really dangerous because, one, I have no reason to be mad at you. I've just thought about what if you said this.
Yes.
And then I've had the full-blown argument in my head.
Yeah.
Which means my body has released all the chemicals to feel the way that I was feeling. And fun fact, there's actually a research paper on this that shows that there's no difference between you actually participating in something. So for example, having an argument with someone and imagining an argument with somebody, because your body doesn't know the difference. So it experiences all those emotions. So you become dysregulated.
Which is that anxiety and stuff that comes with confrontation and things like that. Yeah. So even if you're not having an argument with someone, your body still feels that way.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is since I've learned that now, whenever my brain starts going into a thought spiral, because you can't always catch it, but sometimes when I do, I'm oh wait, hang on, no, I don't want to feel this later. This is not real. I'm pushing it away, or oh, you're understimulated. You need to go do something.
Yes.
you need to go do something right now. Something that is not this. Cut it off.
Yeah. I guess what would the difference be between a thought spiral that is unhelpful versus actually just sitting and thinking about something? Because ADHD can be either or. Sometimes you don't think enough about something and then you do something impulsively, or you think way too hard and you hurt your feelings.
Think way too hard and hurt your feelings should be on a t-shirt. That's just what I did today. It's a good question. I think sometimes we're able to think about scenarios. I think when the scenario is real and the threat is real. And if we overthink that aspect, and it's not really overthinking, we're just sort of sifting through all of the processes. And that can actually happen quite quickly for someone with ADHD. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, and this has happened to me a lot of times, where like someone will present a problem and I will go from A to Z very quickly and they're stuck on A, B, C. And I'm like, this is why we should do Z. I can't explain it because my brain has already thought too fast. But I'm like, this is the right solution. And they're like, but why? And I'm like, I can't explain it to you, but it is. And then it is the right solution, but it takes them forever to get to that point.
It takes them a few weeks to get to the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I told you this before.
It's like we've, I mean, like, and you notice that a little bit less when you're talking to your neurodivergent friends, because I feel like when we have conversations, I'm like this and you're like this. And I'm like, that makes sense.
Is that pattern recognition?
Maybe.
I thought spirals just pattern recognition.
I don't know. We're having like a little existential question here. Yeah, sometimes. Not all the time. I think if you're overthinking to the detriment, like if it's an imaginary scenario, because you were initially feeling anxious, that's probably not healthy. Like if you're sitting there and going, my girlfriend hates me, because she said I love you differently, and then you think about and then you go through the pattern recognition. You'll hear all the other times that she said I love you differently. Oh my god! And then you go through a whole thing in your head of all the things that you were angry at her about, and then you reach the conclusion. You're like, well, okay, if she leaves me, I'll be okay. But then you see her and she's like, hey, I love you, and you're like, oh, that was fine. That's probably not healthy because you've had an argument with her for no reason. When a thought spiral's okay.
From what you said, it sounds like thought spirals are unhelpful or not okay when the things that are going in your head is not what is actually happening.
Correct.
As a behavior or an action outside of your head.
Whereas like if it is a behavior and action that's happening outside of your head, then I think to some degree it can actually be quite helpful for us because we look at all the possible scenarios before making a decision. But that actually happens quite quickly and you're not going to get stuck on it. I think if you're getting stuck and you're getting regularly stuck in your mind, that is you're obviously very anxious. You're probably stuck in like hyperarousal, like we talked about this in one of our other episodes, and you're probably feeling pretty dysregulated. You're feeling anxious, but you're probably also understimulated because your mind is trying to, like, it's like what I said earlier, you're trying to do something with your brain. And so like one thing my therapist actually said to me, she was like, what if you took your overthinking, because you're essentially creating stories in your mind.
Pretty much.
What if you took that energy and then wrote stories instead? Like I enjoy writing. She's like, what if you just use that imagination somewhere else? And that, like, it helps.
It helps?
Yeah, like I'll just stop and I'm like, let's make up a story about something else entirely different and like, use those like energy and creative juices for something else, because you're just getting really creative in your head. And pause. But also like a reminder to people that sometimes your thought spirals are just trying to protect you. Like
I would say a survival mechanism in a way.
Because like you can maladaptive daydream and a lot of people find a lot of solace in maladaptive daydreaming. Like it's not a great thing, but it's not a bad thing.
Because I think that's how I go through thought spirals. Like I would spend days and days and days just ruminating over this one small thing that went wrong. Say, for example, someone hasn't replied to the text. And mind you, this person probably hasn't replied maybe a day or two, and I probably haven't replied to them before that, like for 3 weeks.
No, but you not replying for a day or two is what the problem is.
And then the thought spirals, I think I identify thought spirals is like when something as small as that makes me eventually hate myself. In some way or form. Somehow it's my fault. Even though the person's just busy and it's fine and it's all good. So I would spend days and days and days on that, and then maybe on like day 5, because I've finally written out my thoughts and slowed down a little and I can actually see them as wow, that's kind of irrational.
that was too much thinking.
Yeah, I snap out of it, and I can go back to not being in that constant rumination stage. Or I think, again, we talked about it, going back full circle and coming up with the solution, and then I can get out of the thought spiral.
How do we get out of thought spirals without having to come to a completion?
For me, I need a physical stop.
Okay.
So when I'm in a thought spiral, I just need to know, I need to force myself to get up and do something that doesn't make me think.
Yeah.
So for me, that's going to the gym.
Yeah.
Or meeting a friend.
Yeah.
Or watching reality TV.
Yeah. It's other people's drama.
Other people's drama. Yeah, it's very hard for me to stop a thought spiral by not doing something physical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like getting up and moving actually really helps.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I'm similar, but I almost need an auditory or a visual thing in my space as well, because I can sometimes when I'm at the gym, I can still think about stuff.
Right. You're not lifting heavy enough.
No, exactly. Like I'm still like because the thing is, like, my thought spirals are helping me to lift, right? Because if I'm lifting heavy, then I'm not thinking about the pain. I'm thinking about this imaginary scenario that might happen instead. All these past experiences that I've had with people for no reason. Yeah. So, I think what I do is I'll sometimes chuck on, a podcast or, audiobook or music. Music really changes your mood. I'll watch something. I'll call a friend.
Yeah.
I, even verbalize something to myself. So, for example, if I'm having the spiral, I'll just turn on my recording on my phone and just record verbal processing. And then, because sometimes you start saying some things out loud and you're like, this sounds ridiculous. Why am I saying this?
Yeah.
This is stupid. And then you just stop.
Yeah. But also I think what helps is catching the thought spiral, especially because it's usually negative.
Yeah.
And coming up with evidence against it. And then I out-logic my way out of my thought spiral quicker.
I also think that this is where emotion tracking is really helpful, because sometimes you can't tell that you can be your mood is bad, but you can't tell why it's off. And this happens a lot when clients come in. They're like, I've been feeling really low for a really long time. Not sure why I'm feeling so low. Nothing. And then you'll be like, what's happened in your life recently? And they're like, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, but have you been imagining scenarios in your head? And they're like, yes. And that's what's wrong, because you're feeling all of the things, even though nothing is happening in your life, you're creating thoughts and patterns and emotions and dysregularities in your body.
Yes.
Because
and
of
that
these.
makes you exhausted.
Exactly.
Well.
Oh my God, so tired. And you get a bit sick of it. Yeah.
What else?
I think there's also an element here of asking yourself, why am I feeling so understimulated? Is it because I'm bored? Is that why I'm going through this process? Is it that there's something unresolved with somebody? Is that why I'm going through all of these conversations in my head with other people? Am I feeling insecure about myself? Is that why are your thought spirals about the same things?
Yeah.
Or are they about different things?
Yeah.
Because sometimes if they're about the same thing, it might be that there's, when you're overactive, because we go through times, right? When you're really, really busy, you're not thinking too much at all. Is there something that you're pushing down and suppressing? And that probably heads more into the territory of what else is going on for you, and how do you recognize signs in your body? I just say that pasta spirals are better than thought spirals.
What?
Pasta spirals, spiral pasta.
Oh, okay. I was like, did I hear that?
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We've both got our individual ways of overcoming thought spirals. But what's the sort of generic way that other people, if you're going through really bad, your brain can't stop, but you're recognizing that it's there, what can you do? What's a really simple sort of grounding exercise, do you think, that our audience that's listening in today can just take a moment, even now, to bring themselves back into the present moment? Because that's the other thing. When you're in a thought spiral, you're not in the present. You're either in the past or you're in the future, but you're not here.
Yes. So things to bring to the present. I will also say, if you heard our episode on emotional dysregulation and tracking that, I would say thought spirals, for me at least, they're a sign that I'm in hypoarousal mode. So again, things that make my body move so that it's at the same pace as my mind. Yeah. Called upregulation. Yeah. So movement, walking in the sun, shaking.
Yeah, shaking's great. Shaking's really good.
Yes.
Yep. I think another thing that you can do that's very simple is grounding techniques, right? So things like taking a cold shower, running your hands under cold water, putting ice block in your mouth, like giving a shock to your system a little bit, doing a grounding technique like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So like, for example, if everyone like took a moment and like you close your eyes. No, don't close your eyes actually, because you'll need your eyes for this. Take a moment and I want you to look around the room and name 5 things that you can see.
Yes.
You know, then you take a moment and you name 4 things that you can touch or you can feel.
Yeah.
You know, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell. And if you can't smell anything, then 2 things you like the smell of, 1 thing you like the taste of. And that brings you back into the present moment because you're thinking about now.
Yeah.
Another thing that I do with clients, and sometimes, you know, people will come in and they go through it like a verbal thought spiral with you, is that I'll be like, pause, and then we'll set like a 30-second timer, and like we just pick a category and you name as many things from that category as you can. Because by the time you do that, you've forgotten what you were thinking about. And you can actually articulate what's going on in your mind a little bit better.
Right.
Because sometimes like your thought is really legitimate.
Right.
And you have like, you know, a legitimate concept, like you're anxious about something, and that's fair enough. But because you're considering all the possibilities, because again, ADHD pattern recognition, we're taking everything that we can. We like don't focus, like we lose focus of what is important.
Yeah.
And so being able to actually, and then sometimes we'll do that for 2 minutes. Like we'll go 1 minute, name as many like Disney characters as you can. 1 minute, name all the Bollywood movies that you know, you know, or something like that. And it's like that brings you back into the present moment. Then we're like, okay, what's the issue?
Right.
How do we deal with this?
I never actually tried that.
Yeah?
I'll use that next time.
It's really good.
I think for me,
great for pausing your brain.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, because what I do with my clients is because I think one of the things that keep the thought spirals going, at least with my clients, is that they feel shame in the thought spiral.
Yeah.
They're like, why am I thinking so much? I have no reason to think so much. So I actually give them space to just write down or say out loud every single thought that they're having.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because it's like seeing into my mind as well. Like I think like that as well. Oh my God.
It's like, where are these thoughts coming from?
Yeah. But the more they're allowed to do that without any judgment, the easier or the quicker they get to the root cause of where this actual
what's the actual issue.
And it's usually something like, I'm not enough, or like I suck in some way or form.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So there's like different things that you can do when you're in a thought spiral. I think either you can get up, you can try and like, you know, essentially shake yourself out of it, which is where the movement comes in. You can do something like a grounding technique that then brings you back into the present moment, and either you then leave that and go move forward in life, or you sit down and you rethink it. You can sit down and actually just provide yourself a space of non-judgment and just go, these are the things that I'm having thoughts about. This is the actual issue. You can, if you wanted to take it a step further, you can sit down and reframe your thoughts if you really want to, if they're super unhelpful. I think it's just trying to realize, like, you know, the thought spiral that I'm having, is it because I'm understimulated? Is it because I'm anxious about something? Is it because there's something going on in my life? And then addressing it that way, because I think sometimes we get stuck in we always think that it's something that's a problem. And I think as a result of that, sometimes what happens is, like, you'll try and like logic yourself out of a thought spiral that you can't logic yourself out of, like an ADHD thought spiral where you're just understimulated. You don't. There's probably nothing to resolve there. You know. So I think being able to recognize it goes a long way. And you know, as always, if this is something you're having trouble with, contact us. We have lots of resources around this kind of thing. We can also help you out with it personally. We are therapists. Definitely a little less unhinged in therapy sessions, and so much more helpful with
more
solutions.
Professional.
Lots of solutions. So if you're struggling to do this on your own after the discussions we've had today, contact us and we can help you out, whether that's just like in one session or in a few.
But I guess I'll end it with saying you're going to have thought spirals.
Don't be too hard on yourself.
You're going to have it, especially if ADHD. Your mind's going to go 1,000 miles an hour sometimes. You're going to have it. It's just about, how do I reduce the negative impacts of the thought spirals?
Correct. That's it. That's it. Awesome. Until next time.
See you.
See ya.
As usual, our disclaimer at the end of each episode, Girls That ADHD does not provide personalized ADHD management advice for your individual needs. Although we are mental health care practitioners, Girls That ADHD is not a substitution for therapy or counseling of any kind. Girls That ADHD exists for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon to make decisions about your mental health, well-being, and ADHD management. Advice and conversations from Girls With ADHD are general in nature and do not consider individual circumstances. Always do your research and please seek out guidance from your mental health care team or ADHD coach as required. Okay then, till next time, bye!